Okay.
All right, we're going to start the webinar, and I'll let you know, John, when you're good to begin.
Okay, thank you.
All right, John, you're good to start there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Minister Harris, CEO of Waterford City Council, Michael Walsh, President of WIT, Professor Willie Donnelly, fellow Chamber Directors, Chamber members. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to you all this morning to our Waterford Business Chamber breakfast briefing on the educational and business opportunities that the recent announcement regarding the establishment of the Technological University of the South East will bring to both Waterford and the South East. There is no doubt that this announcement, which comes 51 years after the establishment of the Institute in 1970, is the single most important educational decision that any government has made regarding the strategic direction of third-level educational services and standards in the South East. This decision will impact the strategic provision of education, coupled with increased economic impacts across both our businesses and communities for years to come. Put simply, this cannot be just a name change. It must be supported, funded, and administered to the highest standards, but this can only be done with a strong, flexible, and transparent funding model, which is operated and administered in the same way across all universities and other third-level institutes. The TUSE access to funding cannot be a slow drip, but must be fully supported and implemented in a way which delivers on both the capital expenditure requirements and the operational effectiveness and strategic direction of the education schools that will operate within. For many years of waiting, the young people of the South East deserve the opportunity to benefit from increased educational options and standards that the TUSE will bring. We look forward to hearing from you, Minister Harris, on how you see the South East benefit from this decision and what our communities can expect as we move ahead with the TUSE implementation in May 2022. Our panel will, through some pertinent questions, focus on TUSE matters which are not alone important to our members, but also to our wider communities. As a chamber with over 600 members, we are the largest business membership organisation in the South East. We continue to advocate for a region that positively challenges the dominance of Dublin and the East. In line with the National Development Plan, Waterford is a gateway city with significant population growth of 50% planned by 2040. Your colleague, Minister Coveney, when speaking at a recent meeting of Waterford Chamber Directors, referenced the need for balanced regional development. The economic development of the South East is critically linked to the development of a proper third-level institute which delivers on the educational requirements that any properly funded and administered technological university would. The South East needs a strong capital city. This is imperative if we are to create and maintain a city which is socially, environmentally, and economically sustainable. A city to do business in and to do business with. Key to this is a properly established and funded TUSE. So our panel will ask a number of questions, and I have the honour to begin with the first question. Each panelist will introduce themselves, and once we have gone through the questions, Minister Harris, you have the opportunity to offer a comprehensive overall response to the same. But before we begin, I do acknowledge and appreciate the fact that you do intend to come to Waterford in the new year, all with COVID restrictions, etc., applying, where you have indicated that you will meet with the Chamber, and we look forward to that as well in due course. And that certainly it would be one of the great resolutions for the new year for us to get the opportunity to meet with you. So if I may begin just in terms of the first question. Under the National Development Plan, the government recognises the South East region as a city region, with Waterford City designated as a national gateway city. The National Development Plan is firm and unequivocal in terms of a strong city that is absolutely necessary for a strong region. Other city regions have in their regional centres strong universities and now technological universities. The South East will have one university in the shape of the TUSE. Can the Minister reaffirm his commitment to building a technological university that can place the South East on a footing similar to other city regions, with a university of scale, quality and impact in time to match other cities as well? So that's my question. I'm going to hand you over. Now I think Niall Harrington is there. He's not? Okay, so Kieran, do you want to go next? You're mute, Kieran.
You have me?
Kieran, you want to go? Yeah, okay.
I will. Minister, good morning. Thank you very much for your time. As Willie will most certainly know, and as Kevin Doolan will most certainly attribute to, the technological university will need to build on the considerable achievements of the two existing IoTs in supporting the development of a skilled labour force and in stimulating regional, national and international economic development through research and innovation, hugely important to a company like my own, which is a portable data technological capture company. The concentration of expertise and infrastructure to build a critical mass of activity that will perform at a high level is a prerequisite to the continued high impact of the university. Minister, we'd like you to guarantee us that research and innovation activities will be supported and also enhanced in the delivery of the university for the South East, please. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kieran. Kevin?
Good morning, Minister. I'm Kevin Doolan, Executive Director of the Waterford Institute, and I am on the Board of Directors of Waterford Chamber looking at research and education and innovation. Minister, unlike other city regions where there's a synergy between traditional research intensive universities and the newly established TUs, the expectations and requirements of TUSC to deliver for the region are huge. Education, research and innovation are key drivers for the economy. And so substantial investment is needed to build this capacity versus having to continuously fund ourselves. In Waterford, we've shown we've absolutely punched above our weight in this regard. For example, in my own organisation, the Waterford Institute, we've secured more ICT research funding in Horizon 2020 than all the other institutes of technology combined, and more than any single industrial or university organisation, with the exception of UCC. And this is despite having any significant baseline research funding. Within this, we have over €10 million in ICT hardware deployed in our in-house data centre and test facilities. And this is really a gateway to attracting substantial funding nationally and internationally. However, we're at capacity and we need to grow. We need to level the playing field between the technological universities and traditional universities in Ireland. Currently, the traditional universities have about 25% of their core budget allocated to research and innovation activities. This equates to about 250 million a year split between 5 universities, about 50 million each. In contrast, this year the HEA allocated a total of 5 million across all institutes of technology. The ambition set for the growth of the enterprise base and the innovative capacity of the region over the next 5 years is very much predicated on the technological university being in a position to considerably scale its research capacity, infrastructure, know-how and international reputation. Does the Minister share this ambition, and can he speak to how he envisages that this will be realised? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Valerie?
Morning, Minister.
Valerie, thank you.
Good morning, Minister.
Yeah.
My name is Valerie Farrell. I'm a Minister
Okay.
Chamber.
I'm very sorry, Valerie. We're just having a little bit of audio trouble there.
Is this
See if we can. If I could actually ask the other participants if we could turn off their cameras. Sorry, not Minister Simon Harris or President or John McSweeney there, but if we can get everybody else too, that might help us out a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Valerie.
better?
That's better, yeah. Go on.
Minister, sorry, apologies for that. Valerie Farrell, my name, and I'm Minister of member of the Board of Directors.
No, I'm very sorry, Valerie. Your audio is not coming across today. I apologize. If you have another device that you'd be able to jump onto, and if possibly if we move on, if you can find another device, thank you.
Okay. Regina?
Sorry, I nearly did a sneeze there. Good morning, Minister Harris. Delighted to be on board and to meet you this morning, and look forward to meeting you in person in January in Waterford. My name is Regina Mangan. I'm the owner of Liberty Blue Estate Agents. My question this morning for you, Minister, is that we as a Chamber and in Waterford are concerned that the recent technological university announcement will not amount to much without necessary funding to make it a quality university. Minister, how do you plan to make sure that the necessary funding happens, please?
Thanks, Regina, very much. Deirdre? Thanks, Deirdre.
Morning, Minister. My name is Deirdre Houlihan. I'm on the board of directors of the Waterford Chamber, and I'm also marketing manager for Faytech Hotel in Waterford. My question to you this morning, the leadership of the TU, through the appointment of the chair and members of the governing body, which is currently ongoing, is vital to enabling the TU to take a leadership position nationally and internationally. Can you talk to the process? Can you talk us through the process which is currently underway in this regard, in terms of the process of selection and profile of candidates being sought? Thank you, Minister.
Thanks, Deirdre. I don't know if Niall Harrington is back on the call. I take it that he isn't. So I've got I suppose when you're president, you get an extra job all the time. So I'll cover off Niall's question. We envisage a student population of approximately 15,000 students by 2030, which would be in line with the national plan, which sees an overall population of 50% growth. Already 1 in 3 of the region's college-going students come to Waterford to study. So we are building on a firm foundation. Does the Minister share these ambitions for a university of scale which can contribute to a much larger city as set out in the National Development Plan? Now, there's only one question left, and I'm just going to go back to Valerie, Minister, if you just bear with me for 1 second to see can we get that question. Valerie?
Hear me now, John?
Perfect, thank you very much.
Thank you. Apologies for that, Minister. My name is Valerie Farrell, and I'm a solicitor practicing in Waterford, and I'm a member of the board of directors for a number of years now. This development coming on stream, something that we've been working very hard for and I'm committed to see. The technological university will seek to create educational opportunities for students that are not currently available in the Southeast, as well as maintaining its existing programs. In order to widen access and arrest outward migration of talent, it is envisaged that the technological university will develop a capacity to expand its current program portfolio into not currently available in the Southeast. For example, in training health professionals. It's important to note that only 40% of colleges in the region actually study here, as opposed to more than 60% in Limerick and over 70% in Cork. The question is, does the Minister endorse this position and share our ambition to arrest what I call the brain drain and widen access to a greater variety of programs in the technological university? Thank you, Minister.
Okay, thanks, Valerie. I think we have our questions going through, Minister. So I'd welcome your comments if you would, please, and thank you very much.
Well, good morning, John, and thank you very much to you, to your executive, to the members of the Chamber, and indeed to the Chief Executive of the Council, Michael Walsh, and of course the President of WIT for being here today. I'm particularly grateful to my colleagues, to Senator John Cummins for inviting me, to my colleague Minister Mary Butler, and to Deputy Mark O'Cahessy. So thank you very much for having me here today. I just want to say at the outset, as you alluded to from our conversation at the start of the meeting, this is not a one-off quick conversation on Zoom and we'll see in a while. This is, I hope, the start of a number of intensive engagements that I really want to have with people in Waterford City, County, and the Southeast. And I did just want to at least have this initial conversation pre-Christmas, but it's very much my intention to come to Waterford in January. Because I think January is going to be quite a significant month in terms of governing authority and identification of a chair, and I'll come back to you on that in a moment. So I very much see this engagement today as an initial engagement, and I look forward to sitting down with the Waterford Chamber in person in the weeks ahead. And indeed, there's a lot of other issues I'd like to talk to you about as well, including the Apprenticeship Agenda, the supports we're putting in place for businesses to take on apprentices, the changes to the CAO form to ensure we broaden the conversations with our young people about the skills needs of our economy and society. And of course, most importantly, the Technological University for the Southeast. Look, I'll keep my formal comments pretty brief and then try and engage on the substance of the questions. But I do think 2021 will be seen as and there's a lot of these hackneyed phrases, but I genuinely believe it, a landmark year, a milestone year, a historic year for the Southeast and for Waterford in terms of higher education. Because after decades of debate, rows, discussions, false dawns, the train is now leaving the station. Waterford in the Southeast is now getting a university, and its doors will open by the 1st of May 2022. Waterford City will become a university city, Waterford County will become a university county, and the Southeast for the first time will have a university. All of that is happening. And I am delighted that now that decision has been taken after being, as in my view, debated for too long, that we can now actually begin to get into the substance of how do we make sure that this university works for the city, works for the county, works for the region. How do we make sure it is a university of scale? How do we make sure it's a university that's adequately funded? And how do we make sure that the decision that I'm honoured to have made becomes as big a decision for the Southeast as perhaps the establishment of the University of Limerick was for the Midwest? And I genuinely believe that this could be as transformational a moment. But I know it will only become that if we all really have the conversation about how do we harness the potential of this university. I often say that Dublin or the government can grant a university status, and of course we can, but it has to be working in partnership with the stakeholders in the city, the county, and the region that will determine its success. One of the reasons that we're putting in place a technological university, I'm conscious in talking to a business audience this morning, is in recognition of the fact that we need to make sure that our higher education system can produce the graduates that you need for your companies and for future investments in Waterford. And if you talk to the IDA, if you talk to Enterprise Ireland, indeed you'll know yourself, having a university in your region, having a university in your city can really become a magnet for investment. So I see the establishment of a technological university as really about two things. Yes, well, more than two, three things, really about access to higher education in the region. The fact that your sons and daughters, and indeed you yourselves, can now access university education in Waterford. All roads need not lead to Dublin or Cork or somewhere else. You can actually access anything right up to a PhD here in Waterford. So it's about access to education, but it's also about investment, making sure that the region is well positioned for the investment opportunities now and into the future, in terms of the jobs now and into the future. And thirdly, it's about regional development. It's about making sure that people can come and firstly can stay in a region, to Valerie's point, and get their access, get their education there in a region and then work in the region, but also that people can come into the region as well. If we're serious about regional development, about protecting and supporting the regions, we know all of the evidence shows that having a higher education institution properly supported and fully resourced can be really quite transformational. So years of debate, years of false dawns, this is now happening. And I am delighted that all of the questions today are not focused on, well, is it happening? Is it not happening? Here's my view on how it should happen. But they're actually the questions now about the substance of how do we make it work? How do we resource it properly? And how do we achieve the scale of ambition? And I must say, it's great to hear that word used several times throughout the question, ambition, because we are all ambitious about the Southeast. We're ambitious for Waterford, but we're also ambitious for this new university to take its place amongst the best in our country and beyond. I just want to, before I get into some of the specifics, I do sincerely want to thank everybody who's worked so hard on this for many, many, many years. I particularly want to thank the president of WIT, Willie Donnelly, who's here with us this morning. Willie, you have done the region some service, you've done the city some service, and you've done our higher education landscape in Ireland some service by continuing to stick with this, by showing your tenacity, by absolutely always fighting the corner but also doing the hard work and putting in the hard yards behind the scenes to make sure that a really good application was put together, to engage with staff who voted in favour of this, to engage with students who voted in favour of this, and of course to engage more broadly with the community. So Willie, I really want to thank you and the team that you lead, and I know you'd be the first to say there's such a vast team of people behind you right across WIT who have worked for years and years and years to get to this point. So I really do want to thank you and congratulate you on that. I also just want to be very clear. This is not, a couple of times people say, and they say this all over the country, you know, people ask, what difference will a technological university make? Will it just be a different name? But no, it won't. I mean, this will be a new legal entity. Legally, WIT will be dissolved and a new entity is formed. That's how the Technological University Act works. We're building on very firm foundations, as Kevin reminds us, in terms of a really good track record of WIT, in terms of research, in terms of graduates, in terms of a pipeline of talent. But we want to show that this is going to be a university of scale. So I want to be very, very clear. Let there be no ambiguity, confusion, misinformation, disinformation. We want to physically expand the footprint of the university in Waterford. We want to make it bigger. So I hear lots of different things go around from time to time. Let me be really clear. This government wants to expand the footprint of what is now WIT and will shortly be the Technological University of the South East. We want to make it bigger. And that will require more land. It will require securing a site. And for obvious reasons, there's a process that's going through at the moment. The president of WIT is very familiar with it. The CEO of Waterford Council is very familiar with it as well. And I can assure you my officials are very familiar with it. But we are determined and we have set aside funding to make sure that we secure an additional site, additional space for WIT to expand the footprint. So there will be a bigger campus in Waterford and there will be more students in Waterford. And let me just be crystal clear on that, John. The second thing I just wanted to say was in relation to student accommodation. Up until very, very recently, if we were having this conversation, WIT and indeed technological universities had no ability to finance student accommodation. That was going to really, really hold the regions back. Willie's made this point to me on many occasions. We've now come up with a mechanism where the technological university will be able to access funding for student accommodation. Because back to the word ambition, the scale of our ambition shouldn't just be that students in Waterford go to University of Waterford. The scale of the ambition should be that students all over the country say, that's a really good university, I want to go there. And if that's to happen, we need to provide purpose-built, affordable student accommodation. And already my officials at the most senior levels have begun discussions with the technological universities and the soon-to-be technological university about the potential for student accommodation and how we can help on that. So in terms of, John, if you pardon the pun, concrete commitments, I want to just reference today to the Chamber that my desire to deliver student accommodation with the new technological university in Waterford and the physical expansion of the footprint of the university in Waterford so that it is physically bigger, but also will be able to accommodate more students as well. I do also just want to say that the purpose of a technological university, and there's many purposes of the technological university, but one of the purposes of the technological university is to interface with the business community. And I referenced that at the start of my comments, and I just reference it again. It's really important that each technological university has to be a little bit different. It has to meet the needs of its region. It has to meet the needs of Waterford City. So through the regional skills fora, and indeed through the new governing authority, which I'll get to now in a moment, we need to make sure that, that the programs being provided in the university meet the needs and the requirements of the region. And I think the voice of the Waterford Chamber and others will be really influential and important in relation to that. And there's a couple of questions specifically on the issue of research, which I'll get to now. But I would just make the comment, I'm really conscious that WIT has a very, very proud record when it comes to research. It already punches well above its weight, quite frankly, in relation to research. And we will be putting in place, and I'll get to the detail on this now in one moment, but specific funding for supporting research in the technological universities. We will actually be, to Kevin's point, I think, and maybe to Kieran's, we will be ring fencing funds for research for technological universities. So not funds that you'll have to compete with other traditional universities, but actually positive discrimination is probably the wrong word, but positive action to make sure technological universities can access a very significant scale of new funding. Specifically, John, to the questions, and come back to me at the end if I've left any out. But in relation to your question about the National Development Plan, I mean, you're right. The National Development Plan is unequivocal in determining that each region needs a strong city. There's no doubt about that. And we've always tried to, I suppose we've tried to align our own plans in higher education to that vision, because we recognize that higher education can be a real catalyst for the growth of a region. That's why I'm saying very clearly this morning, I see the establishment of this university as transformational as the establishment of UL was. Yes, technological universities are multi-campus. I think that's part of their strength. It's worked extremely well in some of the other regions. But be clear, Waterford will see growth in students and growth in physical infrastructure as well. But the TUs, I suppose they do very much act as a model in bringing together teaching, learning excellence, research, and crucially aligning that with enterprise and entrepreneurship and engagement with stakeholders. So I think the heft, quite frankly, of a technological university in the Southeast will also enable linkages to be made with other institutions internationally and indeed nationally as well. And we have, and we will continue to invest substantially and strategically in education. That will require the capital project for Waterford, will also require the progression of the PPPs, the people in Waterford are very familiar with, and it will require continuing to provide additional funding to technological universities, including the Southeast, through a variety of funding mechanisms. Kieran and Kevin, I think your questions somewhat overlap in relation to the importance of a skilled labour force, but the importance of research and innovation. And what I would just say is that my department at the moment are currently working to secure up to €100 million in ring-fenced research funding for technological universities under the European Regional Development Fund. We expect to know by the end of Q1, so by March, whether we will have that in place. But I'm very confident, based on my discussions as recent days, that I expect we will be in a position to announce that fund through the European Regional Development Fund. It will only be for technological universities, and there's absolutely no doubt that the technological university in the Southeast will be well positioned to draw down funds, and will be able to draw down funds in relation to that. And Kevin, to your question, I mean, I very much share the ambition that you've outlined in your question, and the creation of that synergy between the traditional research intensive universities and the newly established technological universities. I think that's going to absolutely be key. I want the Southeast to be part of a step change in higher education and research in Ireland. We know to do that, we will need to retain and attract the best teachers and educators for the technological universities. But we also know we'll need to do more than that. We need to deepen and expand our links with the business community, the enterprise sector. We need to expand the facilities, as we're already doing, investing in state-of-the-art facilities in Waterford. Those plans underway, and more to come as well. And as I say, specific funding for the technological universities through the European Regional Development Fund for research as well, which I think will mark a step change in terms of scale of research too. To Regina's question, I mean, Regina, what I would say to anybody looking at technological universities, as I say, look at the other regions and look at the progress and the success that they're already having. I was down in Tralee recently for the opening of the Munster Technological University. I've been up to the Northwest, where they're now going to have a university as well. And we obviously see the progress in the Midlands too. In all of our technological universities, we have worked with them to deliver additional capital projects. I am extremely conscious that the success or otherwise of technological universities won't be judged today or tomorrow. It'll be judged in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years. And to make sure they get to reach their full potential, it is going to require additional funding. So to give you 3 examples, the expanding the footprint, the delivery of the student accommodation, and putting in place specific funding streams for technological universities, including the new research funding stream and the Technological University Transformation Fund. We are literally putting our money where our mouth is in terms of making sure that we build the confidence that the community and the region and the city will need to see that this university is going to be a game changer. And if it is a game changer, I think it's about more than access to education. I think it's a key catalyst for balanced regional development in Ireland, and particularly in this case for the Southeast as well. So I'm trying to work my way through my notes. So I think Deirdre asked me about the appointment of the chair and the members of the governing body. And thank you for that question. I actually couldn't agree more with you. These are key decisions, key appointments. They have to be gotten right. I have been at pains to make sure that there is a transparent process in place. So on the 3rd of December, I publicly advertised for expressions of interest for suitably qualified and experienced candidates for both chair and ordinary members of the first governing body. I'm conscious that these are positions that I fill, and I really want to get them right. So that's why I've put a very robust public process in place. All of the details are there for people to see online. The process of filling these vacancies is being managed through my department, where I'll be presented with a list of suitably qualified candidates. The closing date is actually this week on Wednesday, the 23rd. So I hope to be in a position to make an appointment next month in January. What I would say, and I come to this with no knowledge of who's applied yet, so don't read too much into what I say, but what I would say is look at the other appointments that I've made. For example, Josephine Feehily applied to be the chairperson of the Technological University for Shannon. Somebody of the caliber of a former chair of the Revenue Commissioners with vast experience. We have had a lot of interest anytime we've advertised for chairs and members. And what I'll be looking for is a mix of skills, being honest. I'll be looking for people who understand the region. I'll be looking for people who understand enterprise and business. And of course, I'll be looking for people who understand the education system. I've made appointments in the past where people have had an international background, and I think that adds a bit of heft as well to the reputation of the new institution. I've also made appointments to some of the state agencies, be it Enterprise Ireland and the likes too. So I made an agreement with your Oireachtas representatives for Waterford that the process would be extremely transparent, publicly advertised, and I'd encourage anybody, even in the final few days, if you know of anybody who can make a contribution, to please put their name forward, and I expect to be in a position to make those announcements, subject to there being suitably qualified candidates through the process in January. To Niall's question, asked by John, which is about the student population and the scale. I mean, yes, I again share the ambition. I mean, the purpose of this is not just to kind of continue on as you were with a different name. The purpose of this is to step up a number of gears in terms of the number of students in Waterford, the number of students in the Southeast, the range of programs and the quality of the facilities and the level of research. I mean, that's what we're trying to do here, and not come up with a new logo or just a name change. This is a fundamental step change, and make absolutely no mistake, the new technological university will be a university of scale. Yes, it will comprise of multi-campuses, and all our technological universities do, but we are seeking to expand the footprint in Waterford specifically as well. I think it's important that we don't want or need institutions which just kind of slavishly copy each other. We do need institutions which work to high international standards and which seek to deliver for the unique needs of their own regions. I'm always struck in a country as reasonably small as Ireland, the regions are still a bit different, and each region has its own unique needs, unique skill requirements as well. So yes, I share the ambition in terms of growing the student population to the scale that Niall is talking about, which Niall is talking about as well. In relation to Valerie's question, and thanks Valerie for your persistence in making sure you got the question in, because I think it's a really important question, and I'm not sure people are aware of what I'm about to say in relation to technological universities, and your question gives me a chance to clarify. So, I mean, what we want is we want to retain talent in the region, and we want to attract talent into the region. And that will absolutely require a development of the current program portfolio, expansion of it. It will also require that physical expansion as well. And while technological universities are autonomous, nobody wants me running a university, right? I can assure you of that. We live in a European Western democracy. We value academic autonomy, absolutely. But at the same time, government can set strategic priorities. And under our structure for TUs, all our technological universities must design programs of education and training to meet the needs of the regions. They must involve stakeholders such as business, enterprise, and community. And there is a required minimum 30% criterion for students to either be registered on such courses designed through that process, or be availing of flexible part-time online or distance learning, and to be mature students. So what I'm trying to say here is it's really important that this technological university responds to the needs of the region so people can stay in the region. It's also really important that this technological university realizes that not every student is 18 or 19. There will be thousands upon thousands upon thousands of students in Waterford and the city and the county and in the region who won't be in a position because of life to access full-time education. You could be in a full-time job with a couple of dependents, but you still need to access education. So there has to be a requirement to deliver part-time programs, online learning, distance learning, programs for mature students, and programs developed in consultation with the business community and the wider community in Waterford and the Southeast. And there is that 30% requirement, which I think, Valerie, will go some way, along with the broader expansion plans, to make sure that people who are making a decision today or finding they have to leave today or feel they have to leave today the region to access education will now be in a position to do so as well. And I just see one question, John, in the chat box in relation to the selection of a president. What I would say is, while I believe legally I appointed the first president of the institution, for all of the presidents of the technological universities, we ran an international campaign. So this is not it's not an in-house scenario, far from it. A very, very robust international recruitment campaign, and it will be exactly the same. And again, without prejudicing the competition, because I have no involvement in that recruitment campaign, what I would say is when we've done this with other technological universities, the level of interest from Ireland and abroad has been very significant, and I'm heartened by that. So look, I don't want to go on too long, but I just tried to cover off as many of the points as I could. I see it as an initial meeting, John, and I really look forward to sitting down with you in person in January to update you on all that we've gone through.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd like now to call on Michael Walsh, please, if you'd like to say a few words.
Thanks, President. I'm inclined to reflect generally. I think really most of all, just to emphasise the opportunity. I suppose Waterford's in a very interesting place in that we're going through a really significant transition as it is at the moment. I suppose we're historically a portal and a manufacturing city is the reality of it. We would have taken a fair beating at the end of the Celtic Tiger, to be honest about it. But I suppose consequent and a good bit of support from different governments and otherwise, we are at a point of significant transition is the way I describe it, where we've started to move significant developments in terms of advanced manufacturing, certainly, technology as well generally, and sort of shifting our overall economic activity, even tourism, the life we were booking in Spain 20 or 30 years ago, if you know what I mean, and on the beaches, whereas now we're getting a far more refined product. And generally, there is a real significant opportunity here from my perspective. And that's true of the Southeast as a whole. I suppose the Southeast, look, by any measure has been underperforming a bit, and Waterford not being the driver that maybe it should be is part of that equation in terms of its underperformance. But I suppose in a sense then this represents an absolutely phenomenal opportunity. It's being reflected in our Southeast Enterprise Plan as one of the key economic drivers for the next 5 to 10 years that can really shift things. And I think you used the word potential earlier. In some respects, the lack of development or perhaps that poorish economic performance is where the opportunity really lies. There's a reality here that the potential for growth in the Southeast and in Waterford is actually far greater than a lot of the rest of the economy simply because of that underperformance. And the catalyst that can drive that, obviously the new university designation is absolutely critical to that. And there's a lot of other instruments happening at government level, including the emphasis on the cities and things that are equally helping to drive that. So it really is the case that the opportunity here and is there, and I accept you've absolutely said it. The two key elements from our point of view here in many respects are to get the leadership right and things will figure themselves out, but equally then to have the enabling support from government generally. And I think in many respects that potential is even greater, because I think, and this isn't to blow smoke to Willie or otherwise, but the reality is that the performance of the existing educational establishment has been phenomenal, given the weight of this whole university designation issue that has sort of imposed itself over, as you said it yourself, decades, in terms of the corporate priority, in a sense. And yet it has continued to outperform its peers in many respects, and developed so many of the elements that are a university in its own right, that I really do believe that this is far more than glass half full territory, and really, really is a really significant opportunity. So I suppose I'd only be looking to emphasize that we are at a real point of transition, a positive point of transition, I absolutely believe. And to get this right is going to be a phenomenal, game-changing in many respects. And you used it yourself, just to have the designation in competition with our peers of being a university city, of building on the transition that's there already. And I think, in fairness, in terms of the Southeast generally, the alliances are being built in a sense to support this. We want it to be that entity that absolutely integrates with the enterprise activity of the region as a whole and of Waterford City. And we believe that can be achieved, and I think those alliances are being built. So I suppose all I'd be asking is for you, look, you've made the commitments and indicated the intent to government. From our point of view, we just want to see that follow through, because we genuinely believe that it is that real opportunity, and the timing of it. In fact, look, it has taken a long while, but sometimes things need to come together in that way. And in many respects, the timing is fortunate to be building on a transition that's already happening, that WIT has already contributed phenomenally to. But ultimately, I think if we get it right over the next number of years, you can genuinely see, if you're wearing, as you do, your government hat, where is the opportunity? Where's the opportunity for economic and social development? And from our point of view, there's an even greater opportunity in Waterford and in the Southeast, and we welcome your support in any respect.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael, for your words there. Just Professor Willie Donnelly, please, if you would.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Minister. I don't have any questions for you. We've talked many times, and it's still great to hear your enthusiasm and your vision that's there for the Technological University. That's striking, and always has been. So formally, I'd just like to thank you, Minister, for your leadership and support in the realization of the Technological University. Maybe people sometimes forget that you're the first minister for the new Department of Further and Higher Education, Research, Innovation and Science. So that's quite a breadth of activity that you have. And there's many challenges in creation of that department, and you've had many areas of prioritization, yet from the very beginning, you've stated clearly your support for the Technological University of the Southeast, and I'd like to thank you for that. You've worked tirelessly with the consortium to deliver the university, and I'm delighted to say we now have a date in which that university will be delivered. And again, not only have you supported the creation of Technological University, but you have come out publicly and said that you're committed to investment in infrastructure in the new Technological University, and particularly what you mentioned here in the Waterford campus. So again, thank you, Minister, for that. It has been a long journey, but I'd like to say publicly here that two institutes have come together as one and have a common vision for the new Technological University, which will drive the future in economic and cultural development of the region. Since putting together the application, we have been very mindful of the fact that this is the first university in the Southeast. There is a huge degree of excitement from our stakeholders now that we are finally in a position to deliver that university. However, we're also conscious of the huge expectation from the region, especially in relation to the ability of the new university to shape its economic and cultural well-being. This is particularly, as Michael has said, the case for Waterford as the regional city. It has a special role in ensuring the economic development of the region as a counterbalance to Dublin. We, as a new technological university, embrace this, Minister. I think I reflect back, and Michael mentioned it also, the post-2009 economic downturn, which really hit Waterford extremely hard. We saw the closure of the iconic crystals factory. We saw an increase of unemployment in the city and the region to 25%. I mean, today, to even reflect on that, it's unbelievable. 25% of employable people not having an opportunity to be employed. The Institute, working with the city and the region, transformed the economic development of the region through the delivery of a collaborative environment in the area of advanced manufacturing, biopharma, and ICT, which the Institute's research leadership underpinned the creation of new opportunities in the region and the city. And really a great example of this is if you look at ICT, the Waterford Crystal closure of the factory, we lost 3,000 jobs. I was reflecting recently and I saw that the ICT industry in the region, which didn't exist in 2000, now employs over 3,000 people. And the origin of this industry is ArcLab's Research and Innovation Centre in Carricknore. So this is a fantastic example of the transformative impact of education on a region, and particularly the transformative impact of research and innovation and teaching in the creation of new jobs. And I was delighted to hear of, I'd already heard of it before, but for you to announce the 100 million that's been invested in research and innovation, because you also said that this new university has to be a step change. We're up to that step change, but it does require huge investment in the new university. And in particular, it requires leadership in research innovation and undergraduate teaching. We are building on a long tradition of both institutes of over 50 years since the foundation of the regional technical colleges. Our leadership in teaching, research and innovation provides the foundation that will ensure the success of this technological university. But I just finish, Prime Minister, saying thank you for your support. I know you have a vision for the future. The investments you mentioned are hugely important. And I would say we don't take this next step lightly. That fact that this is the only university in the region creates huge challenges. But I'm sure that we are ready for that challenge and we will deliver on that challenge. So thank you.
Thank you, Professor Willie Donnelly. I'd like just to make a closing comment, if I could. I'd like obviously to thank the Minister for his attendance this morning. I know this is the beginning of a number of conversations in relation to the TUSE, and we look forward to meeting the Minister in person in the new year. It's great to hear the level of funding that has been mentioned already, but it is a question that we will continue to revert to in terms of the university and bringing it to the both from a capital expenditure point of view and from an educational standards point of view. The funding is critically important. So we look forward to those further engagements, because there will be continuing engagement with the Minister in due course. I'd like to thank all of our panelists this morning for giving up their time. I'd like to thank the membership for tuning in as well. As I say, we look forward to 2022 from an educational perspective. Really, you know, the opportunities that are there that have been outlined by the Minister, by Michael, and by Willie in terms of the TUSE offering to Waterford City and the South East is something that we will continue as a Chamber to support. And finally, may I take the opportunity to wish you and yours the happiest of Christmas. And we look forward, as I say, to a very prosperous and much better 2022. So thank you again for your attendance and good morning.
Morning. Happy Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.